Hey you guys, it's MJ from All to Love. How are you? So I'm feeling pretty kind of guided and called to share again on the theme of like energy updates and in my own intuitive knowing, connection. And it's been a really intense couple days actually, as far as still looking at some deeper threads and densities, ways in which our past karma really kind of pulled us apart and stretched us apart in the old perspective, right? So we're seeing this level of pressure and tension building from within us that's clearing out, which is fantastic. So, you know, we're really shedding and letting go of enslavement patterns and disempowered patterns, where we've denied ourselves, where we've disowned our miraculous and divine power. So I suppose the desire, or that feeling of wanting to continue to share, is what's coming up between Katie and I, certainly, and mentors and people who have been doing the work for decades, is the relentlessness of it, and this continual dropping in and digging into your own personal truth, that's all there is. You're the only perceiver. You're the only one seeing the world, and so everything that we're experiencing is a responsibility from within ourselves. This is our kind of divine creative control if we choose to accept the mission, right? How disciplined can we be to discipline ourselves to love? How disciplined can we be to honoring the sacred in one another and recognizing and valuing the divine in one another, as opposed to staying attached to the old ways, the old world, or staying attached and locked into our patterns or our preconceived ideas and assumptions of our own experience as much as other. And for me, there's been a lot of like trust issues coming through, and deeper threads of unworthiness coming through, and veils being lifted so that we can see the ways we deny ourselves or disempower ourselves. And so now we're going through like another review time, a retrograde Venus major in Scorpio and Libra. And so this, to me, intuitively feels like diving to the depths of our deepest sense of love, and so within that this review time, to really drop into how much we can love ourselves, but then that immediately, instantaneously holds everything, all of our encounters, all of our relationships, all of our thinking or desired manifestations, into a real, what is the real truth for us? What is it that we desire? How do we want our connections to feel? How do we, what's true, and not sort of bending that inner truth, because in this place we would never expect or desire other to bend their truth, right? This is sovereignty and freedom and equanimous and harmonious exchanges. And so our best bet, I suppose, is to keep sharing and communicating it as vulnerably as possible, because a lot of us have tapped into some pretty dark spaces and painful spaces, and as we integrate them, for me anyway, certainly it's important for me to just honor where I am now, not and honor what I've learned from the past, and then hold it sacred, right? And then all we can hope is to be clear enough, and so that from this new energy space, that our relationships and our encounters and our engagements are clear, and being open enough to just build and pioneer new dynamics and relationships based in honesty and consistency and showing upness, because certainly for me, increasingly this path is like so much about showing up. So when we really love ourselves, we show up for ourselves, which actually means we show up for one another in like our highest form possible, because it doesn't look like anything from the old world. It's not about sacrificing and compromising our inherent truth. It's not about denying our voices or denying our emotions. It's actually a reclamation of the power of our voice and our feelings, right? And then shining that, sharing that to empower one another to keep going on this path. Another insight that dropped in last night in dialogue with Katie was like, how destabilizing spiritual awakening really is, whether we call it the Kundalini rising or a shift in perspective. Now, imagine that, a shift, boom, like your whole world is one thing, and then a veil comes off, and then it's another thing, and you're like, oh, oh. This is hence part of why I share, is that that's what happened to me like 17 years ago when I was 19. Everything I was taught, suddenly that whole rug got ripped out from under me. And then, you know, as a 19-year-old girl, like just spinning out in my reality, having no idea. It wasn't like a clear-cut path. I'd read Eckhart Tolle, guided to his book after my awakenings in a like small shop in Vancouver, one of his, probably the first edition. And like, yeah, I can see then the egoic polarity of wisdom and knowledge, like the danger of knowledge and how it can spin us out. But then through a deeper earnest commitment to like surrendering to love and surrendering to higher power over and over again, it's like the student continues to go through lessons. And I want to remind us always again that we are the master of self. We can't externalize mastery. We can't give power to institutions and organizations and other people in a disempowered sense, because whenever we do that, we're actually looping back into disempowerment on some level, even though it might kind of look good and feel good. Like that's what I realized, is that the journey never ends, and the lessons and the layers never really end, I don't believe. Certainly not if we're like in form, but then even in a non-physical sense, or in a higher vibrational, non-physical, as dense as we feel in or project this world to be, certainly, that there's like cosmic divine cycles upon cycles upon cycles that are infinite for our own joy and exploration, right? So this earthly experience is just like that. It's just this continual like revelation, right? And it's in our own self-exploration and revelation that, in fact, this journey of thing we call life on earth becomes more joyful, inherently more joyful and peaceful, because increasingly we recognize that it's not in our best service or power to be dictated to by the external world. If we're still being triggered and dictated to by the external world, it's showing us deeper threads of blockages and judgments and fears that we're still holding, that then when we drop into the emotional body and see the power of that block or the untruth of that energetic block, we can shift it and let it go, and then keep rising, keep showing up to share for one another. Because to me, like, some of the simplest ways that I see this shift is suddenly people recognizing the truth and wanting to give vulnerably. And that's like the right down to the bare bones. It's not about our material wealth and possession on this physical plane, because that's really been created out of a lot of distorted, you know, corrupted, you could say kind of criminal behavior. And so once we start continually through our divine connection rising above the illusion of that, we can really share. And the more people that realize that the true joy is from giving, then that's how we kind of shape-shift the world, by spending money in different ways and by giving of ourselves in a way that, yeah, it feels scary, because the world kind of taught us to be afraid to shine. The world kind of taught us that our only job is to be slave to its already in place system. But when you start to wake up and you start to see through the cracks, and then you get right down to the bottom of it, it's not even real. You know, it's not real, and it's not inherent to this planet. And part of the mass awakening is what's ultimately destabilizing this corruption, because free people on this planet have and should have access to free water and free electricity and, you know, free homes, and like that's the fairness of one planet, right? And obviously, yes, I'm aware it might take a few more revolutions to awaken the mass in that way, but I also believe in instantaneous awakening and spontaneous awakening, which I feel is happening more and more and more and more. And that, even it's invisible, you know, that is really what keeps me going, is the connection to the divine and the collective consciousness, and feeling in to where the collective is, and knowing that people are awakening. And it's scary and it's destabilizing, because that's an ego death, right? Immediately, instantaneously, when we have these deeper awakenings, our old self is dying. Our old self is, you know, and usually on the path, if we're earnest in our desire for peace, it will break down. You know, we will go through that breakdown and that transformational cycle, because we've seen the truth, right? And in that moment of recognition, the other doesn't, if anything, it becomes too painful to hold on to the past. It becomes too painful to hold on to something that isn't true or real. And the increasing sensitivity means that we're able to highlight that contrast with more clarity and discernment, and the intuitive sword. Yeah. That's what it feels like to me anyway. I can feel my clarity and just operating differently in circumstances and in kind of relationship dynamics that feels more integrated. And even though I can see part of my past self thinking, oh, that's harsh, or that's rude, but then I realize everyone has a choice. We have a choice to step up. We have a choice to communicate our desires and our needs and our feelings. You know, we have a choice to move one way or to move another way, and all we can do is keep growing, you know, from the learning from the choices that we make, and then shining light into the darker, kind of more insidious stuff, and being like, wow, like that's not cool, man. And so just addressing it, and then again, everyone gets to choose from that. As we become more clear and more honest, so that we can present ourselves with more clarity and integrity and honesty, then again, our environment, the people in our world, they also have a choice. Do I want to meet that person there? Do I want to grow with that energy? Do I want to focus on that energy, or do I want to focus over here? And then, yeah, everyone has their free will. So that's part of sovereignty, and the new paradigm is like, we just show up as honestly as we can. So I think that's it, you guys. I'm in London. I have a session, and then I'm driving back to Devon to do some more editing. I've now finished week 2 because it's being sent to course participants on Monday. So I'm hustling, seeing clients and then promoting the online course. If you guys are interested, feel free to check out ultralove.com. And it's under Zenful Zero Waste. People are digging it so far, and I'm digging creating it, and we're moving it along. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, and feel free to get in touch if you just want to know a little bit more from the women who are creating these revolutionary courses for humanity to become more awake and more in their own flow. Because sometimes it's actually simple action steps we can take which immediately start to crack open that kind of lid of what's true and what's not true, right? So it's all about just awareness and increasing awareness and giving people simple, actionable steps that don't cost them a fortune, and hopefully isn't like, you know, exclusive details for only rich people. That's not really our vibe, but being fairly, you know, modest, humble women of the world, we're also not here to like swindle people. Anywho, I digress into thinking about my biz and sharing with you guys where we're at. So yeah, spread the love. And oh my gosh, you guys, this new groups and all of you guys, it's just God, there's so much love vibration flowing around. So loving you loads. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you guys real soon. Lots of love.